Welcome into Varsity Vibe. I'm your host, Alyssa Orange, and it is always great to have you here as we continue the conversations. And today we're joined by a special guest, Kyle Sutherland, going to join us and talk about what's going on in the softball world right now, about halfway through the season, and some of the other big storylines in high school athletics happening around the state of Arkansas. Kyle, you work for HawgBeat. You do a little bit of everything. You cover high school athletics as well. You've been doing it for a really long time. So I think we can call you an all Arkansas sports reporter, if that's
Hey, I always say, as long as you don't call me late for dinner, that's all I care about. So just whatever works.
Yeah, well, you're so in the know and dialed in specifically too with high school, and you've been doing it a long time, like we mentioned. And so I'm really excited to kind of just pick your brain on where softball and baseball are right now, as we are a handful of weeks, almost a month, I feel like, into the season. And then there's a lot of movement happening in the coaching world, and I'm excited to get your take on that too, including a big time move from a 6A school to college ranks in the coaching world. So excited to break that down. But let's talk with softball. You put out your rankings. You had a media poll as well. How is softball unfolding compared to where it was a couple of weeks ago when we caught up with you last?
I think when you look at when we're just talking state title contenders and the best of the best, I think that it's probably about the same. Mainly the biggest difference right now is in 6A. I talked about how Bryant Bentonville kind of seemed like the hands down favorite coming into just because of their stacked roster, who they had coming back. And then you also add Dalen Osborne over from Rogers. So you've got two P4 pitchers. Nobody in the state. I mean, most in the state don't have one. Bentonville has two. So automatically coming in, and them being the back-to-back defending state champions, like all that stuff that goes with it, they've earned that right. And I still think that they are, and I said this on my write-up, I still think Bentonville is pound for pound the best team, 1 through 9 in the circle, but Bryant did beat them head to head. And I think that this Bryant team really showed, and look, even last year, they showed that they were a legit team, obviously out of the 6A Central. You just weren't sure if they were going to be able to take down like a Bentonville or maybe even a Harbor, but the early season has shown us that they can do that. So I think Bryant has moved in, and I've got them at number 1. Most people do right now. They've shown that they are a legit state title contender, but I think probably you look at 6A, the big surprise is Cabot. They've got a win over Bryant. They've got a win over Harbor, and they've done some good things. So I think that's probably, you look at the state's biggest classification there. And on top of 4A just being, so I've still got Pea Ridge at number 1 because I don't think that there's any reason not to have them there. But really, when you look around the rest of the state, Horatio down in the southwest corners made some really big noise. They're at number 1, pretty much, I think, consensusly. So in the big picture, not a whole lot of change from what we had talked about in the preseason, but this is kind of that time of year now that we're in April where everybody's going to try to make their mark for postseason play.
Yeah, everyone's really just battling for spots and trying to see exactly what they have when they head into the postseason, as you mentioned. Hey, a really cool story, and I'm excited. A couple of episodes here, we're going to be able to catch up with Jamie Beers over at Shiloh Christian, but they're a first-year program, which is a really cool story. How interesting is it to have a team like Shiloh, never had a softball program, and this is their first year playing the sport?
Well, I think it's great. I think you look at just the success, obviously Shiloh in football, they've got a very historical volleyball program, and they've had those kids, they just work. They are known for having an incredibly insane work ethic. And I say that because they, especially like in the football ranks, they start them at 3rd, 4th grade, maybe even younger than that. So I think it's great that they added softball. Coach Beers actually reached out to me about a year and a half ago and told me that was going to, because, he did a great job in a really tough situation with the baseball team. Right. I guess it was 2 years ago.
2024.
2024. And, they lost their coach to unfortunate circumstances, and he stepped in and did a great job with them. And so I think that, the softball team is going to be in great hands with him, but it's really great. I'd love to see someone, in our neck of the woods here in Central Arkansas. I'd love to see like a Pulaski Academy get that back when we're talking about the private schools, but that's just awesome for Shiloh athletics. Their boys basketball team was one of the best in the state this past year. So it just adds another layer to the fantastic athletics that they have there.
Yeah, I think Shiloh's really just trying to set themselves up for success as they continue to move up in classification. We know they're bouncing up to the 7A in football, and of course, all the other sports are going to follow suit a little bit. And so to add that is really cool, and I'm excited to pick his brain. But you don't really see that. You don't see a ton of high schools these days adding sports to what they've got.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. I think probably the sport that we've seen it the most in is 8-man football and volleyball. Well, you're seeing a lot of teams, not a lot, but you're seeing some expansion for volleyball move
Mhm.
south into Arkansas. You think about the Taylors,
Yeah.
which obviously Taylor's a juggernaut softball team,
Yeah.
but you're seeing a little bit more of that, and so the sports are growing. But you're right. It's not extremely common, particularly with softball. I think before that, maybe the most recent one was Columbia Christian down in South Arkansas as well. So not seeing it a ton in softball, but we just love to see the growth in any sport.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, talking about growth, let's switch over to girls basketball. Daryl Fimple wins a state title with North Little Rock, and now he's the head coach at Arkansas Tech. What a move for Coach Fimple.
Yeah, I don't know, Alyssa, that it could have been any better. I mean, you think about from Fimp's standpoint, just personally, grew up in Alma, but played for Arkansas Tech, was a student manager for the great Joe Foley, is not just one of the best in Arkansas. I mean, he's one of the best ever to do it at any level, really. And it's just perfect right now because his daughter Katie's both of his kids have graduated high school now, and Katie was one of his star players on that state championship team this year. And the biggest question that I was getting as soon as it got announced, because she was committed to OBU. And they're like,
Mhm.
is he going to flip her from one GAC school to another? I'm like, well, I don't have any intel, but I imagine that'll probably happen. And she did announce that she's going to be a Golden Son. But it's great to see because, look, I have so much respect for Fimp. I mean, I remember when he won a state championship at Lone Oak multiple back in the day. And the consistency with him is just so phenomenal because of those 6 state championships, you look at the years that they won them, almost
Mhm.
every one of his kids got a ring. And so it's one thing to have, obviously, he had very talented players while he was there. North Little Rock, even before he was there, had talented players. But I even heard somebody say the other day that knows the program very well. Like he was kind of that glue that came in and
Yeah.
they needed to get to that next step. And so
Yeah.
he's been so incredible for Arkansas high school athletics. And I know he's going to take that to the college ranks too and just make Arkansas sports in general, particularly women's basketball, even better.
That's where I was going to go next. Why do you think what he's been able to do on the high school ranks is going to resonate now at Arkansas Tech?
So I had an athletic director. So as we're recording here on a Thursday, I had an athletic director this morning reach out to me who's got some struggling times right now. And he said, man, you work with athletic directors, you do a lot of different things for high school sports. Like, what advice can you give me? And I was like, man, I'm going to give you the same advice that coaches tell me about their kids, that kids tell me about themselves. Ultimately, we can talk about talent, we can talk about all these different things, but it's really just about the work that is put in. And I think that Daryl Fimple is a tireless
Mhm.
worker. He works as hard as any coach I've ever covered. But I think too that he gets the kids to buy in because he loves them. He's not afraid to tell his kids that he loves them. And that's really the first step, especially in today's culture, is you've got to be, especially if you're going to be, and we've seen it. He coaches very hard. I mean, he can jump to the ceiling when he gets mad enough or fired up enough, but it's all about first and foremost, showing the kids that you care and that you're going to have their back, that you just deeply love them. And once you have that, they're going to run through a wall for you. And when you have talented kids that are doing that, then it's obviously going to have great results. And for him, it resulted in 668 wins and 6 state titles and multiple runner-ups too.
Really impressive. Now, again, you got to add recruiting to the whole thing too. And so
Mhm.
recruiting is another animal. But again, you've been around the state he has for so long. He knows the sport, he knows the talent, he knows where to go find talent. And so it'll be fun to see exactly what he does over there at Arkansas Tech. But now there's an opening, and it's not often that you have one in a place like North Little Rock with ladies basketball. How coveted is that job right now?
Oh, I think it's certainly coveted. Look, I'm just going to be transparent. There's been, some not so great things that happened within North Little Rock, and I'm not saying that there's anything like controversial, but they've struggled in a lot of different athletics. Really outside of basketball, you look at just top to bottom. There's been some struggles there. So I know that that's going to be probably one of the questions. Again, not women's basketball in particular, but that'll be probably one of the questions that that whoever gets this job or whoever is interviewing asks. Will they hire? That's one of the questions I've been asked a lot. Will they hire from within? It's tough to say. I feel like this is a search. Just me personally, I think this is one that you open it up nationally. I mean, this is a team that competes against national teams year in and year out. You think about the tournament they go to in Duncanville a lot. So I think that's, unless North Little Rock just has something already planned. I mean, I would imagine that Coach Fimple probably talked to them, maybe before the start. It's just my assumption that he maybe told them that there was some interest there. But so maybe they have something in the works that I'm not aware of. But I think that this is certainly not just a job that coaches around the state of Arkansas are going to want, but even regionally and possibly nationally.
Yeah, excited to follow that and see how that gets filled with such a really good program to take over, right? Hey, speaking of openings, with Pulaski Academy's Anthony Lucas coming up here in my neck of the woods to Fayetteville, taking over for Casey Dick, who is now left to go down to Texas. How big of a move was that for Fayetteville to get another former Razorback in to lead that program a stone's throw away from the university?
I think it was great. I know Anthony really well. I called PA games. Like the PA started I guess they've always had a broadcast, but it was under new ownership this year and this past season. And I called all their games, and I knew Anthony really well before he was my first Razorback, one of my first Razorback heroes before I did cover his teams. But just talking about loving kids and just showing that on a day-to-day basis. I mean, that's him to a T. I mean, he's one of the greatest human beings I've ever met on the planet. So I think that Fayetteville, and obviously he knows the area very well. So I think it was a really great move, and he's had success. Last year was tough. I mean, as tough as any PA has had. Any season PA has had in recent memory, really in the 21st century, but came in and really just the first couple of years, you really didn't even skip a beat from the Kevin Kelly era, winning back-to-back state, a 5A state championship and a 6A state championship. So I think it's huge. And it's also, that's a big opening for Pulaski Academy. From what I understand, they have opened this. I don't know if it's necessarily nationally, but I know that they are kind of weighing every single option to make sure that they make the best move. But I think when you look at a team like Pulaski, you have to look past the 3-8 record last year and look at what that school and that program has done through the years. And I still think it's a pretty attractive job.
I think one thing that PA did that really stood out to me last year, because I got to talk to Coach Lucas early on, and he said, look, we're not a traditional PA team. We're just not. We're got to find ways to win. And that's what they did down the stretch. What do you think his biggest asset is going to be? I know you're moving from the Central up here to the West, but I was looking around at teams recently, and I think with Shiloh moving up, and I believe Harbor's Bryce Owens might be the only returning quarterbacks in the conference. And you got to kind of figure out where your pieces are. So what do you think Anthony Lucas can do when he gets up here to maybe try to see if Fayetteville can get some momentum?
Well, I think, the first and foremost with him is just like kind of see that was you talked about the theme last year. It was just whatever it takes. And transparently, you might have that this year. Like obviously losing Hank Hendricks to reclassification is going to be massive. And, it might be one of those growing pains type years where you're just trying to figure out your team. You play a lot of sophomores. That remains, they hadn't even had spring practice yet. So that remains to be seen. But I think more than anything, it's just coming in and building the culture. Look, Anthony he won 2 as a head coach, but I think of all those state championships, he was a part of all but 1 or 2 of their all-time teams. So, I mean, he understands because he was on staff for so long there. So he understands what success and hard work looks like. And I think really more than anything, even maybe that first, this may not be what the fan base wants to hear, but possibly in that first season, it might just be, growing pains again, trying to figure out what pieces are going to go together, trying to figure out an identity. And like I said, you might have to play some young players. That's just kind of how it goes, sometimes.
Yeah, you got to build it up. I'm excited to see the kind of staff he puts together too. And as we talk about openings and moves, there's a lot of coaching openings right now, moves that were made. Earlier this week, I had Claude Johnson on my podcast and talking about his journey now at Marion. I'm really excited to see what he does at Marion. I have not heard anything but great things about him. And of course, he has been really a big staple in the state, from a player to an assistant coach and now a head coach. What do you think Marion can get out of him?
So I don't know Claude personally, but he's a couple years younger than me, and he played for Bobby Boulding at Pine Bluff, won one or two state championships there, but followed his career obviously covering Parkview and all those. But I'll tell you, if anybody that's on the Bobby Boulding tree, you feel pretty good about it. He's proved that. I actually watched his great interview with him. I heard you talked about his resume and what he's proved. So I think that's a great hire for them. Lance Clark, I've got a ton of respect. I'm glad to have him in Central Arkansas now. I've got a great relationship with Lance. He's always been incredibly helpful. So Cabot's lucky to have him. But, I think that says a lot too, that Claude, I guess he's never been a head coach before. So the fact that you're taking over a pretty established program like a Marion in that 6A East, that shows what they thought of him. And obviously he came, I'm sure that they probably talked to Bobby Boulding and some of the people that he's coached with, and clearly he came in high regard. And so I think he's going to do a great job with the Patriots.
Are there any other openings you're really keeping an eye on right now?
Probably the biggest one would be PA. I mean, partly because I call games for them, and that's the thing too. People are coming to me.
Interest in that one.
Sure. Well, and I mean, part of it's too is just because of who PA is. Yeah. But people have come to, and I can honestly, I can look at this camera and tell you honestly, like I don't have because the thing is I try to be.
All right. So, well, you say that. So here we go. You going to bring back Kevin Kelly?
I will say this. I wouldn't say it's out of the realm, but because I think that everything is on the table with them right now. And that's the thing is I'm not going to lie to you. Yeah, I've talked to some at PA, but at the same time too, I don't, especially since, I'm on the broadcast team and, I've got a little bit of an in with the school. I don't want to put people in uncomfortable situations. And so that's kind of why I haven't dug into it. Now, I'm not going to lie to you outside. I keep saying I'm not going to lie. I'm just full transparency here. Like I have dug into it a little bit with some outside sources that they're kind of in the same boat as me. You hear this name, you hear that name, but I will say that I wouldn't complain. I'm not saying it's going to happen by any means, but I don't think that Kevin Kelly coming back to PA is completely out of the realm. I will just say that from a gut feeling.
Yeah. A lot of people, that was their first thought. So
sure. Absolutely. Especially because Sheridan has struggled. And so PA obviously struggled this year. So that's rightfully understandable to think that could possibly happen.
Yeah, a lot of moves still left to be made. And I can't believe spring football right around the corner, I think in the next couple of weeks here as August or April wraps August, not jump that far, but April wraps itself up. But again, softball, baseball continuing to roll and excited to see how it all plays out. Thank you always for joining us, giving us these updates. I love getting your insight, Kyle.
Yeah, no, I love what you guys do. I was, when Bray was, doing stuff too, I always told him I was glad to see him get more because he does the coaches pod, of course, and was glad to see him get involved on the high school side. Now he's doing some great things with high school relations with the Razorbacks. So no, love what you guys do. Love the coverage of the McDonald's All-American game. Of course, I was covering JJ.
How fun was that, by the way?
Yeah, y'all did. I mean, y'all had boots on the ground. It was a great job. And so, no, love what you guys do. I always appreciate anybody that promotes high school sports in Arkansas. So love what Varsity Vibe does.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you. Hey, and we always appreciate your insight too. So this will not be the last time you and I get to talk some more high school athletics, man. Thanks so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime, Alyssa. Thanks.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Varsity Vibe on this episode. Hope you learned a lot, had some great conversations with Kyle, and excited to do it again here in the next few weeks. As for now, if you haven't, go back and listen to some of the conversations that I've had with coaches and players over the last couple months. Really cool to get to know these guys and girls on and off the field of play. So definitely something that we would love for you to go and listen to, as well as share. And remember, follow us on social media. That is Instagram, X, TikTok, and Facebook. We have so much there, such great content for you on those platforms. So I would really love for you to go and subscribe to those. And speaking of subscribing, subscribe to wherever you get your podcasts and our YouTube channel so you don't miss anything, and our newsletter at varsityvibearkansas.com. Again, thank you so much for joining us. I'm Alyssa Orange, and I will see you next time.